with my own journey as a cancer thriver, somebody who lives with cancer, I started my journey really addressing what I was eating and how I was caring for myself with an anti-inflammatory plant-based diet and lifestyle, and then teaching other people about that. And then, 10 years in, 20 years in, it became so clear to me that that's just only one piece of the puzzle. It's also about really addressing and befriending or getting familiar with what's eating you.
Oh my. I just
Right?
got full body chills. Yes.
Gabby Bernstein, a role model for spiritual seekers.
This is a big moment for me, for you, for the world. I'm sitting here recording with one of my dearest friends, truly. You're in like the top 8. You're like top 8, Kris.
That's huge. You're in my top 5.
Maybe you're in my top 5 too. I mean,
Okay.
I'm telling you, like we're top freaking 5. This is one of my really, really, really longtime friends. What, have we been friends for like 15 years or something crazy like this?
Actually, at least.
At least, right?
Yeah.
At least 15. Oh my God. And Kris, you are a sister. You are my spiritual running buddy. You are a fellow author. We're both published by Hay House. And so we have had many a stage that we have shared. And it's just such a gift to have friends, close friends, like intimate friends, that you also share the same career path, because we just can get into it. We support each other. It's a big deal for me. It really is.
Same.
And I love you. And you are just an extremely talented woman. And if you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Kris is, she has pioneered a movement in the world of thriving with cancer and other issues that arise in our lives. And now, I mean, it's kind of crazy because you take on the most difficult topics, but they're also the topics that have been gifted to you by God so that you can be the powerful transformer of these stories and that we all show up for. And now you've taken on grief. And, I really love what God did with you. God was like, let's take this really happy, bubbly, brilliant, gorgeous human and throw her some obstacles that she can survive and then thrive, and then give her a chance to be the voice for it. And so thank you for raising your hand and saying, yes, I'll take on the assignment. And even the choice that you made to come into this body at this time in this way, to take on these huge assignments. I'm going to cry. It's so big for me to just say this to you. And from helping people through their cancer journey to helping people change their lives through diet and through mental health, and now through guiding us through grief. And I'm just so proud of you. So proud to be your friend.
Thank you, honey. Thank you.
Cool.
So good to be with you. We have been on the tiniest stages at the beginning of our career, at the beginning of our friendship, in the back of health food stores, to the biggest stages on the planet. And I have to say, I don't think I would have the courage to do this kind of work if I didn't have a friend like you who also had the courage to do your work. So thanks goes right back to you.
Yeah, it's big. It's really big. And it's a lifelong friendship. And I'm so excited. So now that we've gushed about each other for the last 5 minutes, it's major. What we're here to talk about today is something humongous. So how many years has it been since you wrote your last book?
7 years. It was a gap. It was a big gap, Gabs.
Yeah. You were putting out a book a year for a while.
I was.
And then you were like, let me take a break. And we're here now today talking about your new book that has been brewing for 7 years. Another gift from God, difficult experiences that have been transformed into greatness. And this is called I'm Not a Mourning Person. It's a brilliant title. It's a brilliant book. And I'm so excited to dive into it. The book really began when your journey of your own personal grief and through a experience of your father being diagnosed with cancer, and also all that brings up inside of you as a woman who lives with stage 4 cancer and thrives with stage 4 cancer. And so I just would like to begin this conversation with the why, right? The why did this book come through you, and how has it transformed your experience of grief?
That's a beautiful question. I love that you started by asking me how long it has been since I've written a book, because I was feeling that pressure. And I think in our industry, there's this belief sometimes that we get that gets validated and reinforced by publishers. Like if you're not churning out content and books all the time, that you'll be forgotten or you'll become irrelevant and all these types of things. And there was a part of me that felt like, gosh, I really have to put another book out there. But the timing wasn't right. And I really didn't know what I wanted to write about. I knew that I wanted to move more into personal development, because even with my own journey as a cancer thriver, somebody who lives with cancer, I started my journey really addressing what I was eating and how I was caring for myself with an anti-inflammatory plant-based diet and lifestyle, and then teaching other people about that. And then, 10 years in, 20 years in, it became so clear to me that that's just only one piece of the puzzle. It's also about really addressing and befriending or getting familiar with what's eating you.
Oh my, I just got
Right.
full body chills. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that that was the direction I was going to start to go in. And then approaching my 20-year anniversary of living with stage 4 cancer, I was originally given 10 years to live. So I'm approaching the 20-year mark. We're in the middle of my dad is newly diagnosed with pancreatic cancer that quickly becomes stage 4. My business is going through a rough time, partly because I decided to intentionally step away from certain things so that I could be more present for the time that I had with him. But there was other issues, because like when one thing happens, like when the rug gets pulled out from under us, sometimes I find in my own life, there's a domino effect of things that weren't working that are coming up, like, here's the time, let's go. And then we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And so I thought, even though there was a part of me that felt like I had to write a very motivational, aspirational book, I thought, I can't do that. And in the beginning, I thought, there's no way that this topic is motivational. There's no way this is aspirational. This is a deep book. This is a difficult topic. Publishers would say to me, that's a hard one to sell. And on the other end of this experience, because this was the only book that I could write, because there's no way that I could move through that time without doing this deep work, I realized, which is something I so appreciate, especially about your last book, Gabby, is that this work sets you up for more of the life that you want to create, for
100%.
more of the love you want to attract, and more of the healing so many of us so want to experience. So it was a radical shift for me. And I think that this book grew me up. It grew me deeper. I remember setting an intention for the book, and that was to help normalize the conversation around grief and loss. So that was for the reader. And then the intention for me was to not only grow deeper, but also flex more of my writing muscles. Like I really want.
And you did. Oh my God, didn't I? I
Gosh.
texted you. I texted Kris. Well, first and foremost, this is absolutely a motivational, aspirational book, without a shadow of a doubt. The second thing I want to echo about what you just said is that when we do the deeper work, that is when we become super attractors. So to think like, oh, I don't want to do that grief work, or I don't want to show up for the traumas, that's a mistake. It's the scary stuff. It's the tough stuff. But I even said, and I'll say this for you too, like the Happy Days is my greatest manifesting book. This is your greatest spiritual book and manifesting book, because when we heal, we reemerge as a new vibration. We come out as a new human, a new energy. And so.
I love that you shared that. I just want to hop on that. I think I intellectually understood what you were saying before reading this book, but now I actually feel it at a cellular level.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I understood how to teach the principles of what you just talked about, but I hadn't fully lived it.
Yep. And we have to live it to write it. And oftentimes we're living it while we're writing it, which was the case for you.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot
sure
of it.
Was.
It sure as hell was. But back to the writing, I just want to acknowledge the writing. I'm in my bedroom reading the galley, and within the first 3 pages of this book, I'm like, this is like the best memoir I've ever read. I mean, it's not even a memoir, it's like a guidebook, but I'm like, this is the best storytelling, the most beautiful writing. your voice is really strong in your writing, and it always has been. But 7 years later, it's really grounded, and it's really just, it's beautiful. It's not just funny, fun, and direct, and it's beautiful, and it's mature. And I really weighed in on the cover of this book, guys.
Oh
I
gosh.
forced her to do it. I pretty much am the reason that this is the cover of the book.
100%.
I am, right? Like,
Yeah,
I'm taking full credit.
You should.
And it's just the cover really defines that gravitas and that strength and power that's coming through this. This is a very mature piece of work that I'm really proud to share with everybody. All right, Kris, so the book's out tomorrow. As we carry on talking about this book, I want everybody to pull up your Amazon account and order the book immediately. It'll be to your house in the next few days. It's here. It's here. And there's so much that comes up in this book about life lessons and experiences that you had even in your father's final days. And I want to just know which really meant the most to you. And if there is anything that you want to personally share there's such incredible stories in here about the journey that you went on with your father and the grief journey. So these lessons and stories, is there something in particular that you can share with us that really might leave everybody kind of with an open heart and a greater understanding of what they can expect here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so taking a big step back, the subtitle is Braving Loss and Grief and the Big Messy Emotions that happen when life falls apart. And like or not, none of us are immune from what I call ruptures. And it's that moment where life changes. It's the moment where you are diagnosed. It's the moment that you lose your job. It's the moment your partner says, I'm leaving you. It's the miscarriage. It's the things that happen in our life that create these ruptures. And sometimes those ruptures are completely unexpected, and they take us out, and we think maybe we will never survive this. And what I have come to understand is that it's really about cultivating the tools and some of the skills needed to surf those storms, because these storms are so big in magnitude, and maybe for the first time you've never experienced something like that. And Gabs, for me, I'll tell you how the book is structured, but I'd say the biggest message that I want to leave people with is that we can't amputate any of our emotions and expect to be whole. Mm-hmm. Right? Our emotions are information. And for me, grief was the one feeling I ran from my entire life.
Yeah.
I ran from it long before I was diagnosed. I ran from it due to my own traumas in history, especially around my adoption and, not knowing my biological father, and then meeting my biological father later in life, and that relationship falling apart yet again, right? And so this is the place I just wouldn't touch.
Yeah.
And I love how you opened this interview, because I realized that there was such fertile ground in this place. It's almost as if I feel like grief is a master healer, because one of the wonderful things that my therapist said to me, and it's a section of the book, she says, when the grief train pulls into the station, it brings all the cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
It brings the past griefs that we think we've dealt with and that we're over, or the ones that we're so terrified of even touching because we think will be taken out. It brings anger. It brings jealousy. It brings shame. It brings all these big, messy emotions. And from my own perspective, I think it's because we spend so much of our time pushing those things down that when we're willing to feel even a little bit of discomfort, I feel like those other emotions are like little kids inside of you that are basically like, oh my gosh, she's being brave. Let's go.
If you like this video and you want to get more Gabby, check out the next one right over here.